Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The kingdom of Ealdorwin had once been a place of unparalleled beauty and prosperity. Nestled in a lush valley surrounded by towering mountains, it was known throughout the land as a realm blessed by the gods. The heart of Ealdorwin, a magical artifact of immense power, had granted the kingdom peace and fertility for generations. Fields of golden wheat swayed in the gentle breeze, rivers ran clear and pure, and the people of Ealdorwin lived in harmony, their lives intertwined with the magic that flowed through the land. But all of that changed on a night that would be remembered in legend. A shadow fell over Ealdorwin, and with it came a curse that would plunge the kingdom into an eternal sleep. It was said that a mysterious sorcerer, his face obscured by a dark hood, appeared at the gates of the castle. His voice, cold as the winter wind, echoed through the halls as he uttered the words of a curse so powerful that even the heart of Ealdorwin could not withstand it. The skies darkened, and a thick mist rolled in from the mountains, enveloping the kingdom in its eerie embrace. The people of Ealdorwin, caught in the grip of the curse, fell into a deep sleep, their bodies frozen in time, their dreams trapped in an endless loop of nightmares. The kingdom was forgotten by the outside world, its borders shrouded in mist, its name fading from memory. Ealdorwin became a legend, a cautionary tale told to children around the hearth on cold winter nights. But in a small village far from the borders of Ealdorwin, an old prophecy spoke of a hero who would one day rise to break the curse and awaken the kingdom. The prophecy was vague, filled with cryptic words and obscure symbols, but it spoke of a warrior of light who would enter the shadowed realm and face the mirror of his soul. For years, the villagers pondered the meaning of the prophecy, waiting for the day when the hero would emerge. That day came when a young swordsman named Gareth began to dream of a dark castle and a sleeping princess. Gareth was no ordinary swordsman. He was known throughout the land for his unmatched skills in combat, his blade swift and true, and his heart filled with a deep sense of honor. But Gareth was also a man with a mysterious past. He had been found as a child, wandering alone in the wilderness, with no memory of his origins. The villagers who had taken him in raised him as one of their own, but Gareth always felt that a part of him was missing, a piece of his soul lost to the winds. Gareth's dreams became more frequent, more vivid, until they consumed his every thought. In his dreams, he saw a castle shrouded in mist, its towers reaching toward the heavens, its windows dark and empty. He saw a princess lying on a stone slab, her face serene, her hands folded across her chest. He heard a voice calling out to him, a voice filled with sorrow and longing. Gareth knew that these dreams were more than mere figments of his imagination. They were a call to action, a summons to a destiny he could not escape. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, Gareth sought out the village elder, a wise man who had lived through many winters and had seen the rise and fall of kingdoms. The elder, his eyes clouded with age but still sharp with wisdom, listened intently as Gareth recounted his dreams. When Gareth finished, the elder nodded slowly, as if a great mystery had just been revealed. "It is time," the elder said, his voice a low rumble. "The prophecy speaks of a warrior of light, and I believe that warrior is you, Gareth. The kingdom of Ealdorwin calls to you, and you must answer that call." Gareth felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of the elder's words settled on his shoulders, and he knew that there was no turning back. "What must I do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. "You must travel to Ealdorwin," the elder replied. "Find the castle you have seen in your dreams. There, you will face the curse and discover the truth that lies within you. But be warned, Gareth, the path ahead is fraught with danger. You will be tested in ways you cannot imagine. Only by confronting your deepest fears and desires will you have the strength to break the curse. The elder handed Gareth a small, worn scroll. This map will guide you to Ealdorwin. Follow it carefully, and may the gods watch over you on your journey. With the elder's blessing and the map in hand, Gareth set out on his journey the next morning. The villagers gathered to bid him farewell, their faces filled with a mix of hope and fear. They had heard the stories of Ealdorwin, of the curse that had turned a once great kingdom into a land of eternal sleep. They knew that Gareth was walking into a place where no living soul had ventured in generations. But they also knew that if anyone could break the curse, it was Gareth, the warrior of light. Gareth's journey took him through desolate landscapes, past the ruins of forgotten civilizations, and into the heart of the wilderness. The further he traveled, the more the land seemed to reflect the curse that had befallen Ealdorwin. The skies grew darker, the air colder, and the forests more foreboding. Trees twisted into unnatural shapes, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The ground beneath Gareth's feet was littered with the bones of those who had come before him, their dreams of glory and redemption shattered by the curse, but Gareth pressed on, driven by a sense of purpose he had never felt before. The sword at his side, a family heirloom passed down through generations, seemed to glow with an otherworldly light as he ventured deeper into the cursed lands. It was as if the sword itself was guiding him, urging him forward, even as the darkness closed in around him. As the days turned into weeks, Gareth faced countless challenges. He battled fierce storms that threatened to sweep him off his feet, crossed treacherous mountains where one wrong step could send him plummeting to his death, and navigated through enchanted forests where shadowy creatures lurked in the darkness, their eyes glowing with malevolence. These creatures, born from the curse, were drawn to Gareth's light, seeking to extinguish it. But Gareth's sword, imbued with the magic of his ancestors, cut through them like a hot knife through butter, leaving only wisps of smoke in their wake. Gareth's journey was not without its moments of doubt. There were times when he questioned whether he was truly the hero of the prophecy, whether he had the strength to break the curse. The weight of his responsibility bore down on him, and the memories of his dreams haunted him, filling him with a sense of dread. But whenever he faltered, he would think of the sleeping princess, of the people of Ealdorwin trapped in their eternal prison, and his resolve would strengthen. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Gareth reached the borders of Ealdorwin. The once prosperous kingdom was now a shadow of its former self, shrouded in a perpetual twilight that cast long, eerie shadows across the land. The air was thick with the weight of the curse, and the silence was deafening. Not a single bird sang, not a single leaf rustled in the wind. It was as if the very land itself had fallen into a deep, unyielding sleep. Gareth stood at the edge of the kingdom, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that once he crossed the threshold, there would be no turning back. He would be stepping into a world frozen in time, a world where the past and present collided in a nightmarish dreamscape. But he also knew that this was what he had been preparing for, what the prophecy had foretold. He was the warrior of light, and it was his destiny to break the curse. Taking a deep breath, Gareth stepped across the border into Ealdorwin. The moment his foot touched the cursed soil, he felt an unnatural force pulling at him, tugging at his very soul. It was as if the curse recognized him, acknowledged him as part of its twisted design. But Gareth did not falter. He tightened his grip on his sword and moved forward, determined to see his mission through to the end. The kingdom of Ealdorwin was a ghostly reflection of its former self. Buildings that had once been filled with laughter and life now stood silent and empty, their windows dark and hollow. The streets were deserted, save for the frozen figures of the kingdom's inhabitants, caught in mid-motion, their expressions of fear, joy, and despair forever etched on their faces. Gareth walked among them, his heart heavy with sorrow. These were people who had lived, loved, and dreamed, only to have everything taken from them in an instant. They were victims of a curse that had turned their lives into a never-ending nightmare. As Gareth made his way through the kingdom, he felt a strange sense of familiarity. The streets, the buildings, even the faces of the people seemed oddly familiar, as if he had walked these paths before, seen these faces in another life. But the more he tried to grasp the memories, the more they slipped away, like sand through his fingers. It was as if a veil had been drawn over his past, hiding the truth from him. At last, Gareth reached the castle at the center of the kingdom. The castle, once a beacon of light and hope, now stood as a dark, imposing fortress, its towers piercing the gloomy sky. The mist that had enveloped the kingdom was thickest here, swirling around the castle like a living entity, whispering secrets in a language Gareth could not understand. But Gareth did not hesitate. He had come this far, and he would not be deterred now. Gareth entered the castle, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The air inside was heavy with the scent of dust and decay, the remnants of a time long past. The walls were lined with tapestries that depicted scenes of the kingdom's history, scenes of prosperity, of great battles won, of rulers crowned. But there was one tapestry that caught Gareth's eye. It depicted a young man, his face obscured, standing before the heart of Ealdorwin. The man's hand was outstretched, as if he were about to take the heart for himself. A chill ran down Gareth's spine as he gazed at the tapestry. There was something unsettlingly familiar about the figure in the tapestry, something that stirred a memory deep within him. But before he could ponder it further, he felt a strange force pulling him deeper into the castle. It was the same force he had felt at the kingdom's border, the same force that had guided him through his dreams. He knew that whatever awaited him in the heart of the castle was the key to breaking the curse. Gareth followed the pull of the force through the winding corridors of the castle, his heart pounding with anticipation and dread. He descended a grand staircase that led to a vast, cavernous hall. The hall was filled with mirrors, each one standing as tall as a man, their surfaces gleaming with an unnatural light. Gareth's breath caught in his throat as he stepped into the hall. There was something otherworldly about the place, something that made his skin prickle with unease. As Gareth approached the mirrors, he saw his reflection in each one. But these were not ordinary reflections. In each mirror, he saw a different version of himself, one filled with rage, another with sorrow, another with fear. The mirrors seemed to come alive, showing him visions of a past he did not remember. In one mirror, he saw himself as a child, standing in a grand throne room, his eyes wide with wonder as he gazed upon a beautiful woman who could only be his mother. In another, he saw himself as a young man, standing before the heart of Ealdorwin, his hand outstretched, his face filled with determination and desperation. Gareth staggered back, his mind reeling. These visions, these memories, they were his. But how could that be? How could he have lived these moments when he had no memory of them? The realization hit him like a blow to the chest. He was not just a simple swordsman from a small village. He was the Prince of Ealdorwin, the very same prince who had unleashed the curse that had doomed his kingdom. The truth was too much for Gareth to bear. He fell to his knees, his sword clattering to the ground beside him. All this time, he had believed he was the hero, the warrior of light who would save the kingdom. But now, he saw the truth. He was the one who had brought this curse upon his people. He had been blinded by his desire to harness the power of the heart of Ealdorwin, to prove himself worthy of his birthright. And in his hubris, he had unleashed a force that he could not control, a force that had trapped him and his kingdom in an eternal nightmare. As Gareth knelt in the Hall of Mirrors, consumed by guilt and despair, a voice echoed through the chamber, a voice that sent a shiver down his spine. "So, you have finally remembered," the voice said, cold and mocking. "The great Prince of Ealdorwin, reduced to a sniveling wretch. How fitting." Gareth looked up, his eyes narrowing as he searched for the source of the voice. A figure stepped out of the shadows at the far end of the hall, his dark robes billowing around him like smoke. It was the sorcerer, the one who had cursed the kingdom. The sorcerer's face was still obscured by his hood, but Gareth could feel the weight of his gaze, could sense the malice that radiated from him. "Who are you?" Gareth demanded, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Why did you do this?" The sorcerer chuckled, a low, sinister sound. "Who I am is of no consequence. As for why, let us just say that you and your kingdom had grown too powerful, too arrogant. The heart of Ealdorwin was never meant to be wielded by mortals, yet you sought to claim it for yourself. You brought this upon your people, Gareth. You have no one to blame but yourself." Gareth's hands clenched into fists, his nails digging into his palms. "I will undo this," he vowed, his voice trembling with determination. "I will break the curse and free my people, even if it costs me my life." The sorcerer's laughter echoed through the hall, cruel and mocking. "You think you can break the curse? You, who are as much a part of it as I am? Foolish boy. The only way to break the curse is to destroy the heart of Ealdorwin. But doing so would destroy you as well, for you are bound to it. You are the curse, Gareth." Gareth's blood ran cold at the sorcerer's words. Destroy the heart of Ealdorwin? The very thought of it filled him with dread. The heart was not only the source of the kingdom's power, but it was also the source of his own life. Without it, he would cease to exist. But as Gareth looked into the mirrors and saw the frozen faces of his people, their lives stolen by his mistake, he knew what he had to do. "You may be right," Gareth said, rising to his feet, his voice steady and resolute. "I am the curse. But I will not let it define me. I will break it, even if it means sacrificing myself." The sorcerer's laughter died in his throat, replaced by a cold, calculating silence. "Very well," he said, his voice as sharp as a blade. "If you wish to destroy yourself, I will not stop you. But know this, Gareth, destroying the heart will not undo what has been done. Your people will awaken, yes, but they will never forget. You will be remembered as the prince who doomed his kingdom, not as the hero who saved it." Gareth said nothing. He knew the sorcerer was trying to sow doubt in his mind, to make him question his resolve. But Gareth's mind was made up. He had lived with the guilt of his actions for too long. It was time to make things right, no matter the cost. With a final glance at the mirrors, Gareth turned and made his way to the chamber where the heart of Ealdorwin was kept. The sorcerer followed silently, a dark shadow at his heels. The chamber was at the very heart of the castle, a place of great power and even greater danger. The air crackled with energy as Gareth stepped into the chamber, the weight of his decision pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. The heart of Ealdorwin rested on a pedestal in the center of the chamber, its once brilliant light now dim and flickering. The artifact, a crystal of purest blue, pulsed weakly, its power nearly spent. Gareth approached it slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the moment he had been dreading, the moment he knew would come. He reached out a trembling hand, his fingers brushing against the cool surface of the crystal. The heart responded to his touch, glowing faintly as if recognizing him. Gareth felt a surge of emotions, love, fear, sorrow, and regret, all flooding his mind at once. Memories of his past, of the life he had once lived as the Prince of Ealdorwin, flashed before his eyes. He saw his parents, his friends, his people, everyone he had ever loved and lost. And he saw the moment when he had reached out for the heart, driven by a desire to prove himself, to show that he was worthy of the throne. It was that moment that had set everything in motion, that had led to the kingdom's downfall. Tears welled up in Gareth's eyes as he realized the enormity of his mistake. But there was no time for regret now. He had made his choice, and he would see it through to the end. Gareth took a deep breath, his hand tightening around the hilt of his sword. He knew that destroying the heart would not be easy. It was a powerful artifact, one that had sustained the kingdom for generations. But Gareth was not the same man he had been when he first tried to wield its power. He was stronger now, wiser, and he knew that true strength came from sacrifice, not from greed. With a cry of determination, Gareth raised his sword and brought it down upon the heart of Ealdorwin with all his might. The blade struck the crystal with a resounding crack, sending a shockwave of energy through the chamber. The heart shattered into a million pieces, each shard glowing with a brilliant light that filled the room. The light grew brighter and brighter, until it was blinding, and Gareth felt himself being pulled into it, his very essence dissolving into the light. As the light consumed him, Gareth felt a strange sense of peace. The weight of his guilt, his sorrow, his fear, all of it was lifted from his shoulders. He had done what needed to be done. He had saved his people, even if it meant losing himself in the process. And in that final moment, Gareth understood that this was his redemption, his final act of atonement for the mistakes of his past. The light spread throughout the kingdom, dispelling the darkness, the mist, and the curse that had held Ealdorwin in its grip for so long. The people of Ealdorwin awoke from their slumber, their eyes blinking in the bright light of a new dawn. Time resumed, and the kingdom slowly came back to life. The once dark castle was now bathed in the golden light of the rising sun, its towers gleaming like beacons of hope. The people of Ealdorwin looked around in wonder, their memories of the curse still fresh in their minds. They knew that something had changed, that the nightmare was over. But they did not know how, or why. All they knew was that they were free, and that their kingdom had been saved. As the kingdom of Ealdorwin began to rebuild, stories of a brave swordsman who had sacrificed everything to break the curse spread throughout the land. The villagers spoke of Gareth, the warrior of light, who had answered the call of destiny and saved his people. But the truth of his identity, of the curse he had unleashed and the redemption he had found, remained a secret, known only to the winds that whispered through the trees and the rivers that flowed through the land. And so, the kingdom of Ealdorwin was reborn, its people united by the memory of a hero who had given everything for their freedom. The curse was broken, the darkness banished, and the kingdom once again became a place of peace and prosperity. But the story of Gareth, the prince who had become a hero, lived on in the hearts of the people, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a chance for redemption.